Hi guys, it's the end of 2013, it's New Year's Eve. Hasn't quite struck midnight yet, but I've decided to end the year with best, worst and disappointing films of 2013. Thought I'd do my rundown. It's been quite an up and down year. I think the better movies actually came out after the summer, but there's been quite a few good movies, and in fact I've liked so many movies I haven't been able to fit all of them in my top 10, so I'm going to give some honourable mentions. There has been some pretty bad movies as well. The ones in my worst list, I pretty much expected them to be there. They weren't big surprises. I do have a disappointing top 5 as well. Films I thought were going to be really, really good but actually turned out to be not good or okay. Also, 2013 has been a great year for me. I had quite an eventful year. As you know, I've managed to lose loads of weight in 2013. It's something I really do want to go into more detail in a future video. But this one is about the movies, and I'm going to get the rubbish, terrible movies out of the way first. And as I said, most of these weren't really a surprise to me. At number 10, Hansel and Gretel. Didn't look very good on the trailers. It was just a big noisy mess, and I didn't enjoy it at all. It really, I think it was the final nail in the coffin for the sort of alternative takes on the bedtime nursery rhyme films, you know, like Jack the Giant Slayer and Snow White and the Huntsman. That was fairly successful last year. It wasn't particularly a fantastic film, but that was successful. They tried it this year and it failed, and really horribly with Hansel and Gretel. At number 9 was The Hangover 3. I really didn't like The Hangover 2. I thought it was terrible. The one thing I did say when I'd seen The Hangover 2, I thought, well, if they're going to do The Hangover 3, don't just copy the thing. Try and do something and do a new sort of storyline. They tried that, and I have to commend them for that, but the fact is I don't think I laughed once in that film. It was just desperately unfunny, and and they say it's the end, and I'm really pleased about that, and I hope they stick to their word. 8, After Earth. M. Night Shyamalan now, he's just making failure after failure, and this is also now sort of marking the time that Will Smith is really not a guaranteed hit maker anymore. His movies aren't being a great success as much as they used to, and the fact that he's trying to push his kids on us and make his son famous, it just is not working. His son just isn't as talented as he is. I mean, some people might disagree. I think Will Smith, when he's good, he's really good, and hopefully he can find some better scripts in future films and just let his son go on his own and try and find fame his own way. 7 was Planes, a horrible Disney film which was just dull and boring, and even children didn't like it. The reason Planes is in there and Smurfs 2 isn't. Smurfs 2 I really didn't like, I didn't enjoy it, but my daughter really enjoyed Smurfs 2 and had a good time watching that one. This one with Planes, it was all round terrible for both adults and children, so that deserves to be in number 7. And it should have been a director DVD movie as it promised to be, but even on director DVD it would have been a waste of money. Number 6, G.I. Joe Retaliation. I pretty much knew this wasn't going to be a very good film, but I am disappointed in the fact that The Rock was in it and Bruce Willis is in it. But they really didn't help it to be any better than what I expected it to be. The only good part of it, I think, was the ninja fight on the side of a mountain, and that was it. The rest of it was just not enjoyable at all. Number 5 was Movie 43. I have to say, this would have been my number 1 worst movie of all time in 2013, but the fact that the guy that directed this, or was responsible for getting this film put together, was able to get these big name stars into the movie. I think he has to be commended for doing this. Whatever was done to get, you know, people like Hugh Jackman and Richard Gere into this film with such a terrible script is amazing, really. Maybe he had some sort of blackmail thing on them or something, but the movie is absolutely awful, and I would recommend anyone, if you want to try it out for yourself to see how bad a movie can be, check it out. Much can be the same. Said the same for number 4, which is Scary Movie 5. I'm just flabbergasted by the fact that they keep making these scary movies. Scary Movie 1 for me was barely funny, but Scary Movie 5, it's just becoming beyond a joke, and I can't understand what makes people go in and see those films. Number 3 was Grown Ups 2. I didn't like Grown Ups 1, but I thought I'd give this another go. I'm still holding out hope for Adam Sandler that he will eventually make another good movie. It's becoming a distant memory for me now. The last time Adam Sandler made a good film, but now he's doing another one with Drew Barrymore. That's normally a good sign, so fingers crossed for the next one. Number 2, Spring Breakers. I really could not stand this film. It was an assault on my senses. There were scenes where they just repeated things over and over again. There was one scene in it where one of the females just kept saying a line over and over again, and I physically wanted to get up and walk out, and I rarely do that in movies. And I just kept checking for my watch and couldn't wait for the film to finish. The only good thing about Spring Breakers was James Franco's performance. That was good, but the rest of the film was just dreadful. And also long gratuitous shots of women bouncing up and down. That might be actually good for a spring break DVD if you want to watch something like that, but I actually went in there to see a proper movie, and it was terrible. And my top worst movie of 2013 is A Good Day to Die Hard. This movie it was terrible. I was really looking forward to seeing another Die Hard film. I thought 4 was okay, but this one was just dreadful. Bruce Willis just didn't seem like he cared at all being in this film. He seemed bored. He seemed to sleepwalk through the film. And I'm thoroughly just tired of seeing this Superman John McClane now. In the first movie, which was a classic, you saw John McClane, he got hurt. He genuinely seemed to be in peril when you were right behind him all the way. In this one, he's just a Superman who could smash through 5 panes of glass and then get up and walk away. And there was just no sense of excitement or peril, or I just found the whole thing with the action not enjoyable at all. I just sat there with just looking stony faced and just wished the movie would end really quickly. Okay, well that's the worst list out of the way, and I don't really like being negative, but I'm going to be a little bit more negative now with my top 5 most disappointing films of 2013. These are films that are not necessarily bad, but I was a little bit disappointed with them. Okay, so number 5 was Monsters University. It's a real shame to see Pixar in a rut at the moment. They haven't really done any sort of classic Pixar. Once upon a time they were doing classic movie after classic movie, and now I haven't seen anything special from them since Toy Story 3. Monsters University was pretty dull for a good third of the film, and then the next 2/3 it sort of picked itself up, and I felt, oh wow, Pixar are back on form again. But for me, that third of the movie, just going through that and not laughing and not enjoying it, was a big shame for me, and I was disappointed with that. Still a good film, but the whole thing with the 2 main characters not really getting on didn't work, and until they started becoming more friendly and getting closer, then it felt more like the original Monsters University. It's just a shame the way the plot went on that one. Number 4 is Riddick. Chronicle. I'm one of the few people that actually liked the Chronicles of Riddick. That's the director's cut in my head. I didn't really like the theatrical cut. That seemed more of a mess to me, but I enjoyed the Chronicles of Riddick, the director's cut. Pitch Black is a classic film. It's brilliant. The problem is with this, they tried to make it like Pitch Black, and in the end it just seemed to go over old ground and just not be as interesting or good. The only character you really care about is Riddick in this film, and you couldn't care less about the other characters, which makes it not work when the monsters start attacking, because when certain people get killed you really don't care, and really it's if it's just the main character you care about, it's just not that interesting, and the plot was a little bit all over the place as well. At number 3, I have to say Kick-Ass 2, definitely one of the most disappointing films of this year. I love the first one. I love the tongue-in-cheekness of the first one. I love the fact that it had a real comic book feel about it. It felt close to the origins of a comic book story. This one didn't. It felt more like a Hollywood comedy parody movie based on comic book characters, and that sadly is not what you want. I wanted it to have a more of a feel of the first one, and it didn't. And the violence, in a sense, felt sort of more Hollywood as well, rather than having that comic book feel about it. And at number 2, Iron Man 3. I just found no excitement in this movie whatsoever. The best thing about this movie was the build-up of the villain, the Mandarin, and he looked like a really awesome villain. And if they'd have had Iron Man being able to play off this villain and deal with this villain and fight this sort of terrorist organization, that would have been great. But they decided, what we'll do is we'll build him up, and then we'll pull the rug under everyone's feet and just reveal him as this sort of joke character that was really an actor, and he was this sort of decoy for the main villain. And here's the main villain, who is really dull and bland and not interesting at all. And yeah, this is the Mandarin. And for me, that didn't work. If you're going to pull the rug under everyone's feet and then reveal the villain, the real villain, had the real villain be interesting. He wasn't. I'll give you one example of why he isn't. People will say, oh, he was a really good Mandarin. Well, if he's a really good Mandarin, where's his merchandise? When you have a fantastic villain, they have great merchandise, don't they? Look at Vader, look at Loki. Even Whiplash from Iron Man 2 has a doll. Killian from Iron Man 3 doesn't have a doll, does he? So, no, he was a dull villain. I'm sorry, when your villain's really poor, the film doesn't work. And it was just joke after joke after joke, and some of it was funny and some of it was quite funny, but for a movie that followed the Avengers, I just didn't enjoy it, I'm afraid. It was just not exciting. I couldn't get behind the excitement of it. And at number 1, my most disappointing film of 2013 was Only God Forgives. I couldn't put this on the worst list. I know it's made a lot of worst lists, and I know that a lot of people have been slating the movie and saying how bad it is, and I am totally behind you. I didn't enjoy this film whatsoever. I was really looking forward to it. I loved Drive, and knowing that this was the same collaboration as Drive, I had great expectations that this was going to be a good film, or great film. One, I didn't go in there with the attitude that this is going to be just like Drive and it's going to be lots of action and everything, but I did expect the subtext to work. For me, it didn't. I understood where the director was going with this, and this is why I wouldn't put it in a worse list, because I do commend him for trying to do something different and trying to be original and not be your typical boring Hollywood action film. And that is commendable, but for me it just didn't work. I wasn't engaged with this. I didn't really find some of the performances very good in this either. There was some of the pauses were far too drawn out, and that made a lot of the movie quite dull for me. I do like the fact that he was trying to do a story, like a hidden story, and a meaning under what was happening, but I think if you cut out all those long pauses and all those stretched out scenes where nothing really happens, where he's holding the camera for quite a bit of time, and you scratch away at the surface of what the story is, and there are plenty of explanations of what the hidden meaning of Only God Forgives is, I still found it a fairly shallow movie, and there wasn't much to it. But as I said, I do commend them for trying to do something different, but for me it's got to be engaging and interesting, and I couldn't get engaged into this film. Okay, it's time for my favourite movies, my top 10 favourite films of 2013. If some of these films haven't made the list, I apologise. The reason for that is I probably didn't see that film. That's the only way I can explain it. So things like Rush, I didn't get to see that. The Wolf of Wall Street hasn't come out in the UK yet, and I haven't actually had. I was going to see Anchorman 2, but I wasn't well enough to go and see it last weekend, and with Christmas and everything, I unfortunately missed that film. So I want to give some mentions to films I really enjoyed, but I would only give them about 3 stars. Oblivion, Fast and Furious 6, Pacific Rim, which I really enjoyed, but they actually didn't make the top 10. I really enjoyed it, but I just think these ones are better. A Place Beyond the Pines, which was excellent. Wolverine, the director's cut, which I really enjoyed. I wasn't a big fan of the Wolverine movie, the theatrical cut, and it would have actually made probably most likely would have made my number 5 in most disappointing films, but I really did like the director's cut, so I've let it off. Okay, so I'm going to start with number 10, and that is The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. The first Hunger Games was okay. It was things that put me off it though, the shaky cam, and it did seem like it had budget restraints. This one had a much more bigger scope to it. I thought the acting was fantastic. I love where the story's going, and I was really on the edge of my seat for a lot of this film, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know there's certain people that don't like the Hunger Games, and they always give like the example of Battle Royale, but the thing is, give it a chance, guys. Go and see Catching Fire. I think it's an excellent movie. So you know, I can only say, just put the prejudice aside about Battle Royale. I love Battle Royale. I've got Steelbook of Battle Royale myself. I love that film. And there are a lot of similarities between other films. I could say, like Star Wars. Star Wars borrowed a lot from Flash Gordon and Hidden Fortress, and many films have taken influences from others. So it's not a big sin to have a good film that is influenced by other things. Even the maker of Battle Royale says that his movie was influenced by the Lord of the Flies. So everything's influenced by something else. Number 9 was Frozen, and this is a fantastic Disney film. The songs, I'm really starting to love the songs on this. My daughter absolutely loves this film. She got me to get the dolls of it, and the songs, we're still singing throughout the house when we walk around the house in summer, that's sung by Olaf the Snowman. And I thought this movie really captured Disney at its best, and it's one of the best animated movies that Disney have done since Tangled. I love Tangled too, so yeah, I'm glad that Frozen's doing really well in the box office as well, and I just love that movie. I think it was fantastic. Number 8 was Thor: The Dark World. Really good. I'm really pleased I enjoyed this one, especially after being so disappointed with Iron Man 3. This captured what I wanted from a Marvel movie. It had action, it had humour, but one didn't destroy the other, if you know what I mean. So I enjoyed Thor, and I reviewed it if you want to see that review. Number 7, The Conjuring. I'm not a big horror fan, but this, in Chris Blue's video, where he was asking us to pick our surprise hits of 2013, this was definitely for me a surprise hit. I went in there, I'm not a big horror fan, I'm not particularly scared of most horror films. I didn't really find it scary, but it really had a sort of deep-seated creepiness to it, and what I loved was the sort of 70s horror movie feel. It had that feeling of like The Omen and The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby, and it sort of captured that sort of thing that I like about horror films, like a Hammer style. And what I really enjoyed also was the relationship between the two main characters, and the way the actors played that off. It was fantastic. I love The Conjuring. I think it will probably go on to be, in years to come, maybe look back as one of the, you know, a classic horror from this era. Who knows? And number 6 is Prisoners. A thoroughly enjoyable movie, a real edge of your seat thriller. You're split between how one character would do things, and how another character would do things. Especially if you're a father, you definitely sympathise with Hugh Jackman's character. If you're a father of a child, it makes you, it twists your stomach inside. And even if you aren't, you know, I think you're definitely split between Jake Gyllenhaal and how he would do things, and how Hugh Jackman would do things, and you're rooting for both characters, even though they seem to be on opposite sides of justice. And even though the plot isn't so well unraveled at the end, and the conclusion to everything might be a little bit disappointing to everything that came before, it's still a fantastic film, and I would heartily recommend it to anybody. At number 5 is Star Trek Into Darkness. Fantastic movie. I thought it was just as good as the first one. I loved the chemistry between all these characters. They seem to have captured the magic that was there in the original series, and the plot with Khan and how everything's sort of twisted on its head and doesn't quite pan out, but it sort of mirrors what's happened before in the original timeline, I thought was done really well. And I think J.J. Abrams has done a fantastic job of sort of breathing new life into the Star Trek storylines, and I'm looking forward to the third one. Unfortunately, J.J. Abrams is not going to be doing it, but fingers crossed, the next director to take over is going to do a great job. At number 4 we have The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. I think even though this sort of went on to a different direction, it doesn't really follow the book as closely as the first Hobbit movie did. I think they did a really good job with this second movie. It's exciting, it's a great action film. My last video I reviewed it, I won't go into great detail in this one, but I think that Peter Jackson's doing a great job with The Hobbit. No, it's not as good as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but the source material, compared to the source material of the Lord of the Rings, that's to be expected. I love the Lord of the Rings books. I think they're much more mature than the Hobbit book, and I think what Peter Jackson's done with bringing the appendices and this Hobbit book to life, he's doing a great job, and I'm looking forward to the third one. And number 3, you're going to be very surprised that this is not number 1. Number 3 for me was The Man of Steel. I love this film. I thought it was excellent. I thought every character who was in their respective roles. Henry Cavill was great as Superman. Michael Shannon was fantastic as Zod. I could go on. Every character was great in this film. I thoroughly enjoyed the story of it. I loved the sort of the way that Krypton looked, and I thought the action between Zod's minions and Zod, you know, taking on Superman was fantastic. I loved it. But the action did go on for slightly too long. Some scenes felt a little bit too drawn out for me. I would have liked a little bit more characterization in the film, and that's why for me the original Superman 1 and 2 are still my favourites compared to the Man of Steel. That just feels more like the Superman, my Superman, if you know what I mean. But I did love the Man of Steel. I think it's a fantastic film. I loved every second of it, and I'm really looking forward to the sequel with Batman and Ben Affleck as Batman. As you know, I did a video about how I think he'll make a good Batman. Not too sure about all these extra characters that are coming into it now. We've got Wonder Woman. I don't know why they just don't say, look, it's not Batman or Superman movie anymore, it's a Justice League film, and just call it something like Justice League, because you've got Wonder Woman in there now. I don't really see. I'm a bit worried about where they're going with this, so time will tell. And the second best movie for 2013 was Captain Phillips. I thought this was an excellent film. I thought the acting in it was brilliant. Tom Hanks, I think this is his best performance for me. I always felt Castaway was his best performance, but I think he actually exceeded it in this film. Totally felt for his character, but I also felt for the Somali pirates. They made me care about what their plight was. I understood why they did what they did. There was real tension there, and well, I understood. I don't agree with what they do, but I understood what makes people do that sort of thing, and they humanized the Somali pirates in this, and I thought the actors that played the roles as the Somali pirates, as well as everyone else, like the crew and Tom Hanks's character, I just love the acting in this. I love the tension and the suspense, and I was just enthralled throughout the whole movie, and very moving film as well. At number 1, for me, this is what cinema is about. This was a theatrical experience, one of the best 3D movies I've ever seen, and better than Avatar. had touching moments, it had exciting moments, it had scenes in the, you know, scenes that you saw on screen that took your breath away. Sci-fi movie that had moments that made you go wow, just much like a 2001, with certain scenes in those films, and when you know, in Star Wars, when the Death Star goes overhead, the opening shot in 3D on a large, huge screen just makes you go wow. And I felt the story was very suspenseful, and Sandra Bullock was great in it. George Clooney was great. It was, I don't know how well it's going to perform on home cinema. I'm lucky I've got a 3D TV, so I'll be able to see it in 3D again at home. But I'm talking about a movie that's a movie experience, a theatrical, you know, amazing film, and that is Gravity for me. Definitely the best film of 2013. Because of the whole package that is included in it. I asked a friend, he'd seen it. I said, "How did you see it?" He said, "I saw it in 2D." I said, "Did you really enjoy the film?" And he said he did. So it's not just the 3D being a gimmick. The 3D adds to it as well, but it's still a great movie regardless of that. And I'm really, as I said, I'm really looking forward to 2014. I hope you all have a fantastic new year. Happy New Year to you all, and a big thank you to everyone who's been watching my videos, and thank you to everybody who comments and likes my videos. I can't thank you enough. Take care, guys. Happy New Year and all the best. I'll catch you later.